Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at the very long and very impressive catalogue from one of the most celebrated, decorated, respected and popular sax players of the smooth jazz genre. And when you hear this guy, you know straight away who it is, as he has a very distinct sound on the saxophone. And since bursting onto the scene in the late 80s, this gentleman has seen it all, done it all, and collaborated with just about everyone. From Hiram Bullock to Jorge Dalto to Eric Gale to Richard T. He has played with the Gale Midnight Orchestra. He has also played with the Rippingtons, Chuck Loeb, Patti, Tom Browne, the GRP All-Star Big Band, Don Grusin, the Yellowjackets, to name a few. And he is a true master of the reeds. He can play tenor saxophone, soprano saxophone, alto saxophone, and he is best known for his outstanding work as a flute player. And the gentleman I'm talking about needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only Nelson Rangell. So Nelson Rangell I consider to be one of the most popular sax players of all time, and I consider him to be one of the best in the world. And he has often always been accused of being, yet again, another David Sanborn clone. But over the course of time, I would say Nelson Rangell has matured and grown into his own man, and he has his own unique identity on the horn. And for today's edition, I am going to be taking a look at all 17 albums, and I will be talking about each album individually and choosing which one I think is the best. So the thing with Nelson Rangell's catalogue is they're all good. I wouldn't really say there's a bad album, but it's one of those catalogues where it gets better as it goes along. Starts off a bit more poppy, sort of oriented kind of jazz music, but over the course of time the music gets better and it really grows into something, you know, very special. So we're going to start with the first album, which came out in 1988, and this is To Begin Again, which is the debut recording of Nelson Rangell. And it's a pretty good album, very hard to find. I spent a lot of years trying to track this one down. Not easy, but it was definitely worth the search in the end. And it's very typical of the time, but there's some good tracks and there's some great playing from the man himself. So, and there's some good tracks as well. We've got New Country, What a Heart Feels, Heroes, A Little Sweetness, Draw the Line, A House Is Not a Home, I Hope We Meet Again, and the title track, To Begin Again. It's a good, strong album. And as I said, you know, it's very typical of the time, but as I said, there's some good stuff here. So there we are. A very young Nelson Rangell. So I would say the standout tracks are A Little Sweetness, A House Is Not a Home, I Hope We Meet Again, the title track, To Begin Again, and New Country, which features PMG's Mark Ledford on vocals, and What a Heart Feels. You know, there's some good tracks there, some great playing. Nelson Rangell pretty much co-writes a majority of this album. Some of the compositions are written and composed by J. Rao. He contributes on 2 tracks here, and also there's a couple of cover versions, one by Ivan Lins and one by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. But as I said, most of the compositions here are co-written by Nelson Rangell. But it's a good, strong album. As I said, it's very typical of the time, but it's worth tracking down. Highly recommended if you're a fan of Nelson Rangell. It's a good place to start. And as I said, quite a hard album to find. So there you have it. Nelson Rangell, To Begin Again. Good start here. So we come to the next album, which came out in 1989, and this is kind of like a GRP favourites here, as it was released on GRP Records, and this is Playing for Keeps. So this pretty much follows the trend of the first album, and as I said, it's very typical of the time, but there's some good playing, there's some great tracks, and as I said, Nelson Rangel was often accused of being a David Sanborn clone, but I always felt that he was his own man, and he was never trying to be a David Sanborn copycat. He does play the alto sax, which is what David Sanborn made famous, but at the same time, I always felt that he was very much his own man and always had a lot to say in his music. So we've got the title track, Playing for Keeps, Let's Wait a While, Waiting for an Answer, Falls in Love, You Say, 10 Worlds, Find Your Way, Special People, From One to Another. So there's some good tracks on here, I think. So lots of the compositions are co-written by Nelson Rangel. There's one contribution from Chuck Loeb. Actually, there's a couple here from Chuck Loeb. Actually, it's about 2 tracks. A couple contributions from Nelson Rangel. There's a cover version here as well. And we've also got 2 co-written compositions by Nelson Rangel. So there we are. The hair kind of makes him look a bit like Kenny G. So there's nothing wrong with that. So the musicians featured on here is Nelson Rangel on alto and soprano, saxophones, flute and piccolo. And he does a bit of whistling as well. Kip Cooper on keyboards, Chuck Loeb on guitars, his wife Carmen Custer on vocals, Jay Rao on keyboards, John Van Epps on the synclavier and programming, Art Laborio on keyboards, Gil Goldstein on keyboards, true legend there, Emedin Riviera on percussion, Zev Katz on bass, Dave Ratajaks on drums, and Elliot Lewis on drum programming and sequencing. There's some star power there. So standout tracks for me, I'd say, is Playing for Keeps, the title track, 10 Worlds, You Say, and From One to Another, and Special People. But it's a good solid album, I would probably say. There you have it. Playing for Keeps. Good album. As I said, it's very typical of the time, but there's some good playing and there's some great tracks on here. So there's quite a lot here you can appreciate and respect. So there you have it. Playing for Keeps. So as we come to the next album, which came out in 1990, and this is just a self-titled album, Nelson Rangel. So the music by this point is starting to mature a bit now. He's slowly starting to move away from the poppy sort of aspects of jazz, and his music starts to get a bit more serious here. So we've got Rain Quest, Tomorrow Better You, Better Me, NYC, Prelude to a Kiss, Starlight Whispers, Brasilia, Giving the High Sign, The Carousel, Stone Cold, Wishes for You, and a gorgeous cover version of the PMG classic, If I Could. So as I said, the music does start to get better as you go along here. There we are. So a lot of the compositions are, again, co-written by Nelson Rangel, and there's quite a lot of covers here, and there's even some contributions from Jay Rao, but there's still plenty to appreciate here. So the standout tracks for me, I would say, are If I Could, which features Nelson Rangel whistling, a bit rare treat there. Stone Cold's a good track. The Carousel, another good track. Brasilia, it's a gorgeous track, I think. NYC, and Tomorrow, Better You, Better Me. So some good tracks here. So it's a good solid album, and the music starts to mature a bit more. So there you have it, the self-titled album, Nelson Rangel. It's good stuff here. So as we move along, we come to the next album, which was released in 1992, and this is In Every Moment. Interestingly enough, this album was produced by Russ Freeman of the Rippingtons, as he played with the Rippingtons on a couple of tracks. I think he played on Curves Ahead, so he played a bit of piccolo on there. So it's a good solid album. Kind of starts to transition into more serious music, as I mentioned earlier, and it's good. So it's a really good solid album, I would say. Features a lot of Rippingtons members here as well, which is no surprise considering that the main Rippingtons man himself, Russ Freeman, produced it. So mostly co-compositions by Nelson Rangell. He contributes about 3 tracks here, 2 contributions from Chuck Loeb, and we've got 2 contributions from Jay Rowell, and we've got another one co-written by Nelson Rangell, and we've even got one from Mark Portman of the Rippingtons. So there's a bit of a mixed bag here, really. So we got One World Spirit, NYLA, Someday, Golden, Boomtown, Wild River, Map of the Stars, All This Time, Tell Me What You're Thinking, and Dancing with Ivy. This is actually a very good album. Doesn't hurt that you've got some of the Rippingtons men on here. So standout tracks for me, I would say, is One World Spirit, NYLA, Golden, Boomtown, Map of the Stars, which features Russ Freeman on classical guitar, outstanding track, All This Time, and Dancing with Ivy. It's a very good album. In many ways, you could probably say this is kind of like a Rippingtons album, but it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But it's a very good album, very strong playing from everybody, great flute playing and piccolo playing from Nelson Rangell. So by this point, Nelson Rangell is still very much playing the sax, but he's now starting to dabble into playing flutes and piccolos, so something that will become a big part of his music on later albums. So there you have it. In Every Moment. Excellent album. Actually one of my favourites. So as we move along, we come to the next album, which came out in 1993, and this is Truest Heart. It's actually a very good album, and it kind of follows the trend of the last album. So the music's starting to get a bit more mature, a bit more serious, and there's some great playing from Nelson Rangell. So we're going to have a quick look. So we've got 2 co-compositions by Nelson Rangell and 1 contribution by Chuck Loeb, and we've got a couple by Kit Cooper and a couple by Mark Bearden, and also one from Mark Portman of the Rippingtons. And yeah, as I said, it's just a bit of everything. There's just like contributions from just about everyone. So we got World Traveller, the title track Truest Heart, I Can't Make You Love Me, Flight, Western Vogue, Runaway, This Simple Beauty, Regatta di Rio, Living the Life, AJLA, ILA, Sierra La Esperanza. So some good tracks here. So standout tracks for me are World Traveller, Flight, Western Vogue, Runaway, Truest Heart, Sierra La Esperanza, AJLA, ILA, and Regatta di Rio. It's a good, strong album, this is. It's a very, very good, strong album. As I said, lots of great sax playing, some great flute playing from Nelson Rangell. And I'm going to be truly honest, Nelson Rangell's a great sax player, don't get me wrong. But I think for me, in my honest opinion, I would say flute is where it's at. It's kind of like with Eddie Daniels. Eddie Daniels is a good sax player, but clarinet is where it's at for him. I would say the same for Nelson Rangell. He is an amazing flute player, and I consider him to be one of the best in the world. So there you have it. Truest Heart. Good album. Very, very good album. So we move along to the next album, and this came out in 1994, and this is Yes, then yes. I will say yes, then yes. This is a good album. It's a very good album. So we've got Dennis Chambers, David Childs, Zach Dazinga, Paul Jackson Jr., Ron Comey, Will Lee, Chuck Loeb, Tony Morales of the Rippingtons, Raphael Padilla, Mark Portman of the Rippingtons, Philip Saiz, and Steve Thornton and John Working. Some big names on here. So we've got the title track, Yes Then Yes, Looking Forward, Never Forgotten, Love Is, Starstream, Swinging for the Fence, One Heart Calling, The Runaround, Child's Play, Time Will Tell. Some really good tracks here, some great playing here from the man himself. So, as I said, more contributions from Nelson Rangel. Chuck Loeb plays quite a big part on this. There's quite a lot of Chuck Loeb contributions from him, and also Mark Portman also contributes a few co-compositions here as well. But less of the covers and there's more original, so you can see Nelson Rangel's really contributing a lot more in the compositions, a lot more of him on here. So the standout tracks for me, I'll say Yes Then Yes, Looking Forward, Never Forgotten, Starstream, One Heart's Calling, Child's Play, and Time Will Tell. But it's a very good album, and this is definitely one of my favourites. Yes, then yes, I would say this is definitely one of my favourites. Love this album. It's a very good album, this is. So we come to the next album, and this came out in 1995, and this is Destiny. So the music's getting more serious now, less of the poppy, bit more jazz driven, and there's even like classical feel. He would start to incorporate classical elements in his music, and that doesn't hurt. And it's a very good album, very melodic, very laid back, but still highly enjoyable. So we got The Road Ahead, Grace, Streetwise, A House Is Not a Home, Going All the Way, Rainbow Shadows, Little Dream Girl, On the Phone, Sonora, Joey de Vieira, and the title track, Destiny. It's a really good album, this is. So more co-compositions by Nelson Rangel and some contributions from Chuck Loeb, and Chuck Loeb plays quite a big role once again on this album. So the standout tracks for me are The Road Ahead, Streetwise, A House Is Not a Home, Going All the Way, Little Dream Girl, On the Phone, and Destiny, the title track. So this is very good. There we go. Yeah. And there's a sleep notes from Nelson Rangel. So yeah, it's a very good album. Really enjoyable. You have it, Destiny. Great stuff. So we come to the next album, and this came out in 1987, and this pretty much would mark the end of Nelson Rangel's GRP run. He would go to Shanashi Records just shortly after, and this is Turning Night into Day. Pretty much continues from Destiny. Music's a lot more serious. Nelson Rangel's taking more risks, and great sax playing and great flute playing. Nelson Rangel's music and his playing starts to become more and more versatile. Very good album this is. Very, very mature album. And as I said, the music does start to mature as you go through his catalogue. So we've got Starting Now, Turning Night into Day, The Journey, All for You, For the Rest of My Life, Romantic, Godzilla, From Spark to Flame, April Snow, All Hearts, One Heart, Today's Top Story, La Ripusta, The Answer. Good album this is. So let's have a quick look. Couple of co-compositions by Nelson Rangel. There's about five contributions by Nelson Rangel, couple by Chuck Loeb, and there's some covers as well. So standout tracks for me are Turning Night into Day, All Hearts, One Heart, Today's Top Story, La Ripusta, The Answer, From Spark to Flame, which features a gorgeous guitar solo from Chuck Loeb on classical guitar, great playing from him, and Romantique. So there's some good stuff here. We are. There we are. It's a good album. It's a very, very enjoyable album, this was. Turning Night into Day, very good album. So we come to the next album. This came out in 99, and this to me, this was like the shift. So, you know, gone was the poppy oriented style of music. Music's getting a lot more serious now, and this is one of his best albums, I think. And this to me was like he went from being a sax player and still playing the saxophone, but now he's playing more flute, and he really comes into his own here. So this is Always really good album. This is a very good album. So we've got Starlight, The Way to You, I Will, I Do, A Little Something, Oh, The Places You'll Go, the title track Always, Nana Song, 24/7, I'll Fly Away, Scratch, The Mystery of Hearts, and Graduation Day. It's a very, very good album this is. And this to me was when Nelson Rangell really came into his own as a player and composer. So standout tracks for me are All the Places You'll Go, got great flute playing from Nelson Rangell, and also another great track here is The Mystery of Hearts. The flute tracks for me are the standout tracks of this album. Graduation Day is another great track, another good favourite of mine, and I'll Fly Away, another great track there, and also we've got here Starlight, another great track. But as I said, the flute tracks for me are the standout tracks, and also Nana Song, a beautiful song as well. So Nelson Rangell taking more command here, lots more originals from him. Obviously, still co-contributions from like David Mann and Chuck Loeb as well. But very, very good album this is. So there we are. I'd say this is one of his slickest albums. A very, very slick album this is. So there you have it. Always a brilliant album this is, in my opinion. And as we move along here, we would come to the next album, which would be released in 2000. And this is a direct continuation of Always. And this is, in my opinion, could very well be Nelson Rangell's best album. And this is Far Away Day. So, really good album this is. I would say Always and Far Away Day are perhaps probably his two best albums he has ever made. They really showcase how versatile he is, not only on the saxophones but on flutes as well. And he really comes into his own as a composer, and it's got more of an orchestral feel to it. And this is definitely up there with Always. You know, it's very, very laid back, very, very slick. Less of the poppy, more sophisticated music being made here, and it's just unbelievable here. And even Jazz is here, leave a little quote here saying, rich in inspiration, long on chops, and powerfully unique in voice. Couldn't agree more. It's a really fine album this is, and this is one of my favourites. So basically on this album, more co-contributions from Nelson Rangell, but it's highly enjoyable, really good. So we've got All and All, Clutch, Reasons, The Gathering, Rainbow Seeker, A Soft Place to Fall, and we've also got One Step Closer, Welcome Home, and Then I Knew, the title track, Far Away Day, Like No Tomorrow. It's a very, very enjoyable album this is. Standout tracks for me, I would say, are Welcome Home, Like No Tomorrow, Reasons, The Gathering, Rainbow Seeker, and all in all, but it's a very good album and really showcased Nelson Rangell's amazing flute playing as well. So it's a very, very enjoyable album. So there we are. And there it is. It's a very good album. This is could very well be one of his best. And it's a personal favourite of mine, one of many. So there you have it. Far Away Day. Beautiful album. So we would come to the next album, which came out in 2003. And this is Look Again. It's a good album. Would probably say not as strong as the other two, but it's still highly enjoyable. There's some good stuff here to appreciate. So we got the title track, Look Again, Dedication, Good Morning Love, Off the Hook, Saturday Night, Long Walk, Step In, Whisper, Something's Going On, With All My Heart, and Scenario. It's a good, enjoyable album this is. So, again, more co-contributions from Nelson Rangell. But you can see he's really starting to have a bigger hand in his own writing. So it's less of like other contributions from people. He's really starting to like write his own compositions here. So let's have a look. There we are. And there we are as well. So standout tracks for me, I would say, is Dedication, Off the Hook, Saturday Night, Long Walk, and Whisper, and Step In. More saxophones here, less of the flute here. Scenario is a good track as well, and Something's Going On. Said it's a good album. I think the other two were just a little bit more better, but as I said, there's no such thing as a bad Nelson Rangell album. I'll just say there are some albums that are just a little bit better than others. So there you have it. Look Again. It's a good album, very enjoyable. But as I said, I still think the other two have the slight edge. So we come to the next album, which came out in 2004, and this is a Christmas album, All I Hope for Christmas. Now, you know, a lot of sax players have done things like this before. Kenny G obviously has done it. You know, Jesse J has done a Christmas album. You know, all the sax players at some point in their career have all done Christmas albums. And, you know, I've got nothing against Christmas albums, but we've kind of seen it all before. You know, there's nothing new here, but there's some good tracks here. There's some good playing here. Lots to appreciate and respect here. But, you know, I kind of feel like the Christmas stuff's been done to death by now, but still highly enjoyable. So we've got Let It Snow, Do You Hear What I Hear, The Christmas Song, Silent Night, Sleigh Ride, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, My Favourite Things, Ave Maria, Old Christmas Tree, All I've Hoped For. It's a good, fun Christmas album, but, you know, as I said, there's nothing really new here that you haven't seen before. So, standout tracks for me, I would say, is Let It Snow, which has got some great flute playing from Nelson Rangell. Silent Night's another great track, more great flute playing. Ave Maria, another great track with lots of gorgeous flute playing. And All I've Hoped For, which is, I think, the only Nelson Rangell co-composition that's featured on here. But I would say the flute playing is the standout tracks for me. The flute tracks are the best. And the Christmas song's good, which has got gorgeous acoustic playing from Chuck Loeb, and Silent Night, which has got great flute playing from Nelson Rangell, and Sleigh Ride, that's good as well. So I'd say all the flute tracks are probably the best, in my opinion. There we are. There we are. It's a good, fun Christmas album, but as I said, it's nothing you haven't heard before. So there you have it. All I Hope for Christmas. It's a good Christmas album. As I said, you know, you've kind of seen it all before. So we come to the next album, and this came out in 2005, and this is called My American Songbook Volume 1. It's a very good album, this is. So we've got Introduction to America, America, Don't You Worry About a Thing, Cast Your Fate to the Wind, Billy Boy, Interlude, That's The Way of the World, Sonora, Frieda, In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning / Don't Let Me Be Lonely Tonight. So that's like 2 songs in one. Cherokee and Don't Forget Those Forgotten. It's a good album, this is. Haven't heard this in a while, but I remember it was pretty good. I remember this was quite good, actually. There we are. Ooh. And there we go. Excellent stuff there. So, standout tracks for me, I would say, are Cast Your Fate to the Wind, Billy Boy, That's the Way of the World, Sonora, Frieda, and In the Small Wee Hours of the Morning, Don't Let Me Be Lonely Tonight. So, a bit more cover versions here. I think there's only like one original here. I think it's all American standards. We've even got a guest appearance from the Yellowjackets with Russell Franti and Jimmy Haslett. We've got Chuck Loeb on guitars once again. So it's pretty much all American standards, but it's good tracks here. Some good tracks here, I would say. My American Songbook Volume 1. Good album. It's good. So we come to the next album, which came out in 2006, and this is Soul to Souls. Very enjoyable album. Really like this one a lot. We've got Free as the Wind, City Lights, When I Saw You, Veneta, Instrumental Theme Part 2 from One Man Dog, Mean Business, A Night in Tunisia, A New Avenger, Send One Your Love, The World View. Really enjoyable album. I remember this one a lot. So we've got co-contributions from Nelson Rangell, a couple of some other standards by Joe Sample, James Taylor, and we've got a Stevie Wonder composition here as well. So I would say the standout tracks for me are The World View, which features great flute playing from Nelson Rangell, Send One Your Love, and also we've got Instrumental Theme Part 2 from One Main Dog, Veneta, and we've also got Free as the Wind. So some good tracks here. As I said before, the flute playing for me is where it's at for Nelson Rangell, and there's some great flute playing from him. So there you have it. Soul to Souls. Excellent album. Very good, in my opinion. So this would bring us to the next album, which came out in 2015. And Nelson Rangell released 2 albums back to back. So the first one he released is an all-sax album called Red, which mainly showcases Nelson Rangell's chops on the saxophone. So we got The Point of Departure, The Red Pill, Some Next Grace, Smoothly Sinister, Nelly's New Thing, Somewhere in the World, Whatever Happens, Matters of the Heart, Another Way, From Here. So it's a good album. As I said, this mainly showcases Nelson Rangell's sax chops. So it's a good album, quite enjoyable, very hard to find. Standout tracks for me are The Red Pill, Some Next Grace, Nelly's New Thing, Whatever Happens, Matters of the Heart, Another Way, and From Here. A good album this is. And as I said, he released another album in the same year, and this is called Blue, which is an all-flute album. Absolutely gorgeous. As I said, this was an album that I was waiting for Nelson Rangell to make since forever. I saw Nelson Rangell in 2011, and he played a couple of tracks from this album on flute, and it was just absolutely brilliant. So, as I said, as great as he is on saxophone, and he is one of the best, for me, flute playing is where it's at, and this is the album that I've been waiting for him to make, and it delivers, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So we've got Little Face, Dizzy, Le Tombeau de Coupurian, Children's Games, Peter and the Wolf, Sweetest Somebody I Know, I Loved You, Pavan, Free as a Bird, Omar, and The Magician El Mageo. Very good album this is. Very, very enjoyable. Really like this album a lot. You know, it's a very, very good fun album. This is. I would say the standout tracks for me are Little Face, Dizzy, Children's Games, Peter and the Wolf, which is what I saw him play when I saw him live. I Loved You, which features a gorgeous flute piano duet with Nelson Rangel and Bob James of Foreplay, and The Magician, and which has got like a little string orchestra as well with Mitch Foreman and Tim Flavrivier and Louis Palmer. It's a very good track this is, but the whole album is just absolutely beautiful. And if you're a fan of flutes playing, this is where it's at for you. I highly recommend it. It's really good album. This is. I think that I'd probably put this as my favourite Nelson Rangel album of all time. So we would come to the next album, which came out in 2018, and this is By Light. So not an easy album to find. Spent a lot of years trying to look for this, but very good. You know, Nelson Rangel, he continues to get better and better. And in my opinion, he's an amazing sax player. And as I said at the beginning, I put him down as one of the best in the world. Great on the sax, but for me, flute is where it's at. You can't go wrong really on either. But I just think I like Nelson Rangel's flute playing just a little bit more. So we've got Streamline, Tidal Wave, Human Nature, the title track By Light, From the Start, Letting Go, Lead the Way, Ali's Moon, Old School, and A Dream I Had. All songs written and composed by Alex Nick Russoff and Nelson Rangel. So it's kind of got a little music partner here, co-writing the music with him. You know, over the course of the albums, he was always having other people compose for him, but as I said, he's really matured and taking more risks. And a lot of the albums are very different. You know, they started out as more poppy albums, and then they get more serious and a bit more orchestral, and then he leans into like smooth jazz. But here, for me, this is just like a good old-fashioned classic smooth jazz album, and it's really good. So the standout tracks for me, I would say, are Streamline, By Light, From the Start, Letting Go, and Old School, and A Dream I Had. Really good album this is. As I said, took me a lot of years to find this, about 3 or 4 years, but definitely worth it. Really enjoyed this one a lot. So there you have it, Nelson Rangel, By Light. So the best album for me, you know, obviously Far Away Day and Always are his two best albums he's ever made. But for me, my personal favourites would be Blue. All flute, Nelson Rangel at his very best. Love him on the sax, but for me, this was the album that I really enjoyed the most. And, you know, it really shows you that Nelson Rangel is a highly versatile player. He can do it all: jazz, pop, classical, fusion. He can do it all. But for me, this is where it's at for me. I think this is his best album ever. And, you know, I would like to see him fully concentrate on flutes, because I think he's an amazing flute player, and there's not really a lot of flute players out there. I mean, we had Dave Valentine, who, you know, sadly passed away. We had Joe Farrell, he passed away like many years ago. And, you know, there's not really a lot of flute players out there. I know you had Philip Bent, but we don't hear much of him these days. Don't know what he's up to, but I think Nelson Rangel should be the man to take the flute to the next level. You know, I'd like to see him do more albums like this. But for me, Blue, my favourite album of all time by Nelson Rangel. Excellent album. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Nelson Rangel album? Is it To Begin Again, Red, Blue, By Light, Soul to Souls, My American Songbook Volume 1, or is it All I Hope for Christmas, Look Again, Far Away Day, Always, Turning Night into Day, Destiny, or is it Yes, Then Yes, Truest Heart, In Every Moment, Nelson Rangel, or is it the self-titled album, Nelson Rangel? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time. for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And also a special shout out to Mark David, who I dedicate this review to because I know he's a big fan of Nelson Rangell. Much love to you out there, brother, and hope you're okay. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, thanks for listening.